I'm back. Hi. I don't know why it stopped. I didn't... Oh my god. I didn't stop the stream. I don't know why it stopped.
Just make your own little...
Because I am dumb, that's why. Because I am a poopy brain. I have poopy brain. Oh no. Saribot, baby. No, baby, no. Saribot, what happened? Okay. We're good. We're chilling. Am I here? Am I streaming? Can somebody say potato if I'm if you can see me? Okay.
Potato.
Thank you.
Potato.
Potato. Patatas. Patata. All right, we're gonna get into this SCP, boys and girls. Sorry for the mini F. I'm not sure why that happened. A little spooky. It's in the holiday spirit, you know how it is. Am I even alive right now? This song is called We Drink Your Blood. Very cool, very metal. All right. We're just waiting for AJ to get back. He's doing a little cleaning up. Oh, we're not pumpkin carving anymore. I gotta change my title. Power Wolf. Power Wolf. Darian letting him clean up the mess they both made. I bet Darian doesn't help with the cheesecake either. Look. You heard me earlier when I was like, could you just, like, do this for me? We're already aware of the type of person I am. We're all on the same page. Dude, 2 days in a row I'm sitting on a folding chair. My ass will never recover. My ass will never recover. That should be a quote. Watch VeryDarian's stream. Your ass will never recover. Your ass will never recover. I think he's out there beating up the pumpkins. I genuinely do. I think he might be assaulting the pumpkins. I worry for their safety. I think he's taking them out back, giving a little 1-2, 1-2. Little uppercut maybe. Throwing a little high kick. Little roundhouse kick maybe for a little spice. The pumpkins won't see it coming. AJ be like... Sneak attack, baby. Sneak attack. The pumpkins will never see it coming. I wish you would have done that in front of a green screen so you could put that in like a bunch of different situations. Just Mark coming out of like the sewer and just attacking somebody. What if AJ just walked in and said he dropped them both? I got pictures. I'm fine. There's video evidence of it. Like, I'm good. They're gonna decompose in like a day. You know? No need to cry over spilled milk. I think he'd be more distraught than I would be. We will be starting the video shortly, my friends. Just waiting for AJ to get back. How about that local sports team? Yeah, they were crazy in the second half. They went absolutely bananas. Don't go chasing waterfalls. No crying over spilled milk. No need to cry me a table. You know, all that stuff that your parents tell you. Oh, cry me a table, Linda. Hunter is still in that same position he was earlier. On his back on the couch. He can literally stay like that for hours. If he is on the bed, he'll get hot after 20 minutes. But if he's on his back on the couch, boy, that is his spot. He's just staring at the ceiling. Wonder what he's thinking about.
Trampoline was gone.
Savage. Timmy's a savage. Hey, you were talking about Clorox wipes earlier? Here you go. Here it is. Here's your Cloroxin.
Todd Clorox.
I'm Todd Clorox. I'm not even gonna say what Todd Clorox says. I'll get banned.
Todd Clorox is a savage.
We ain't sponsored, not yet. One day I'll get sponsored by Bleach.
Tide Pods.
They're Bleach. I'm Todd Clorox. I feel like you're like wiping down the table, like you're like a busboy.
That's racist.
Hey, I didn't take it there. You took it there. Alright. Come on. Have a seat, my friend.
Do you want to remove this or not yet?
No need to. Until they start dropping fat stacks, it's generic bleach. This generic ass bleach. Generic ass bleach.
Boom for it. Would it be easier for you just to like I can reconvene your...
You have to move the mic. It's gonna take too much time. Let's just... I got it to work over here, so just... Come on. Come on, take a seat. Seth Sloan, thank you for the follow. Thank you, my dude. We're gonna get started with this video right quick. Still waiting for glasses command. I will do it after stream. Just remind me so I don't forget. Crimson King. I thought that was going to say, here comes the Crimson Chin.
Bang bang.
You ready? All right, boys and girls, it is time for us to start this SCP. Somehow I stopped the stream also, which was weird. Don't know how I did that, but I did. What are you doing?
I was just leveling it more. It was literally diagonal.
It's diagonal now. What do you mean?
Oops.
You're wackadoodle. Okay, all right. All right. Okay. So we're doing this one monitor, all right? One monitor style. Make sure that that's still... Okay.
Dude, I can't even read that. But that's what we're using.
This?
Yeah. SCP-001. The SCP Foundation contains thousands of anomalous creatures.
I can't full screen it, is the thing.
Crop
this
it, I guess.
list of SCPs, of course,
Yeah, I'm gonna crop it. Just crop it in. There we go. That's better. He is a sliver. I had to fix. We must be smaller. There. There. Right?
There's so much open space.
Yeah, well, that's life.
I can just go.
starts with number 1. Newcomers to the site will be perhaps surprised to find that there is no single SCP-001, but instead there are currently over 24 proposals outlined for the slot. The reason for this structure within the universe is so that no one outside of the O5 Council know which of the proposals is the true SCP-001 for the sake of security.
Come here, come sit. You're missing the SCP, sir. Come on. Give the people what they want, dude. Okay. Alright. SCP-001. This is the first one.
SCP-001. The SCP Foundation contains thousands of anomalous creatures, objects, and phenomena. And this list of SCPs, of course, starts with number 1.
Where is the dude?
Newcomers to the site will be perhaps surprised to find that there is no single SCP-001, but instead there are currently over 24 proposals outlined for the slot. The reason for this structure within the universe is so that no one outside of the O5 Council know which of the proposals is the true SCP-001 for the sake of security. The reason for this out of the
He's
universe
invisible.
is
It's his
because
Halloween
having the
costume.
001 slot was considered special, and it was reserved for something worthy of the slot. The proposals were then first submitted hoping to earn the spot, but at this point it's likely that no single proposal will ever be chosen. While a number of the 001 proposals are related to the concept of the fictional
What's up,
starting of the
Enders?
Foundation, just as many of them have nothing to do with the early Foundation.
What's up, Game
There
Hunter?
are far more proposals than I'd like to fit in one video, and likely many more to come. So this video will go over a number of the most popular proposals. The highest rated proposal was submitted by Dr. Clef, titled The Gate Guardian. This proposal describes a massive humanoid entity, over 1,000 feet in height, that stands motionless at a location near the intersection of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This entity is standing in front of a tremendous gate, through which a pastoral grove can be seen, which include 2 immense fruit trees. The entity is seen with its head bowed, holding a large sword or knife, and with a number of bright wings emerging from its back. Any entity, living or otherwise, that comes within 1 kilometer of SCP-001 is attacked and obliterated instantly.
I was like, he doesn't seem that scary.
Additionally, any hostile action taken against SCP-001 from any distance results in the destruction of the attacker. However, those that directly observe the entity from a safe distance are given a telepathic order that they are compelled to obey. The most common of these is forget, causing the observer to walk away and forget their experience.
Like Men in Black.
Notably, the founder of the Foundation was given the directive, prepare, leading him to start the SCP Foundation. The Foundation has done some minor testing with the entity, but nothing so far has passed the 1 kilometer barrier. SCP-073 and 076, known as Cain and Abel, both refused to go near the entity, although Cain was ordered to approach, causing some expunged effect and the termination of any further experimentation. Finally, the proposal ends with a transmission that the Foundation received, time-stamped a number of years in the future, discussing SCP-001 leaving its location and an imminent apocalyptic scenario. The entity currently has no containment procedures, although it is constantly monitored.
That's good to know.
S. Andrew Swan's proposal, titled The Database, showcases a simple and yet meta answer for the existence of the Foundation and all of the SCPs. In a nutshell, this proposal outlines the concept that the SCP Foundation attempted to look into a grand unifying theory that connects all of the SCPs in their universe to a single origin. In the process, they discovered that their records would often change on a whim, but also that their reality was changing along with it. The reason for this, and the reason why they halted all investigation into the origin theory and expunged practically all of the data, is that they discovered their universe is subject to the omnipotent wills of a group of horror writers. To put it plainly, this proposal says that the Foundation discovered that their reality is constantly subject to change based on what the authors of the SCP website decide to write. To combat this, the O5 Council have prepared a series of memetic agents that would affect viewers of the SCP database, leading to unconsciousness or death. This proposal is one of the more controversial ones due to the extreme meta nature, but it does neatly answer the question of where all of the anomalous objects come from. SD Locke's proposal takes on a unique format, titled When Day Breaks, alternating between the standard technical writing typical of an SCP entry and a somewhat more traditional storytelling format.
That's kind of wild.
It's
like a simulation, almost.
Starting with detailing how you followed a distress signal into an abandoned Foundation facility while being hunted by some sort of monster. You barricade yourself in a room with a computer terminal and turn it on. Here we are presented with a proper description of SCP-001, which is now the designation that the Foundation assigned to the Sun after an inexplicable event. This event caused light rays from the Sun to melt any living organism, including plants, animals, and humans, into a still-living congealed mass of flesh.
Oh.
Plants can still photosynthesize, animals remain sentient, and
Lovely.
humans retain some sapience and memory.
Oh,
But
that's
when
the
touching,
worst.
these masses can combine and blend together into large bulk organisms that drag themselves around.
Nightmare.
Additionally, any anomalous organism loses their anomalous properties when affected by the Sun. An estimated 6.8 billion casualties occurred within 24 hours of this event, leaving the Earth an apocalyptic wasteland. It's implied that eventually all life on Earth will be a part of a single mass of gelatinous flesh, as those affected seem to desire to bring everything else into the sun's light.
Gelatinous flesh.
The rest of the proposal goes over some earlier
The worst
logs
words
of
to be
some
put
Foundation
together
personnel
in the history
attempting to
of
survive the
forever.
apocalypse. And eventually, the reader, you, are dragged out of the facility by the mass and taken into the light. Dr. Mann's proposal, the spiral path, is incredibly simple on the surface. Merely a circular path in a forest that seems...
Real quick, that reminds me of, does anyone remember, I think it was, what was it called? Was it called Inside? There was that game. Was it Limbo? And there was like that congealed mass of like faces and arms and legs. Inside, yeah. It's like similar to that.
seems to be continuously uphill when walked in a counterclockwise direction. A fence, some armed guards, and a nearby laboratory make up the basic containment procedures. But an attached document available to new members of the secretive O5 Council provides the full story. The document tells the tale of a physicist named Aaron Siegel, who discovered the anomalous gravel path in 1891. Rather than ignoring it and moving on, Aaron decided to study it, finding it to be basically a glitch in our world. From his experiments, he was able to derive new equations, and he began to create inventions based on these new principles.
It's
The
putting
first
light
of
on
which was a
the
key
screen.
that could open any lock, SCP-005. He brought in other bright minds to study the path with him, creating the basis for the Foundation, but rather than containing the anomalies, they hoped to use them to better the world. One discovery flowed into the next, and although they started small, they began experimenting with humans and creating more elaborate anomalies. Mistakes were also made, with inadvertent creations also coming out of this period, but they kept moving forward, gaining funding from governments and militaries around the world. As the Foundation grew, the original group of researchers continued to create new anomalies, but created the masquerade of having other people find their creations. Certain individuals from the group split off, forming groups such as the Church of the Broken God, but the O5s continue to create new anomalies to better understand what
Is that a
they've done.
toaster?
The document
Not a
leaves
toaster.
off by stating that they didn't create every SCP held by the Foundation.
Spooky
Some
toaster.
just appeared in containment, and were always in containment. Like many 001
Evil.
proposals, this one either fits with your headcanon of the Foundation, or it doesn't. Jonathan Ball's proposal, Sheaf of Papers, is another simple one that attempts to explain where all of the SCPs come from. The sheaf
That
of
lamp's got a
papers is
record.
literally that, a small stack of papers with confidential report on special items, classified, written on the cover page. When the cover page is turned over, a new SCP is described, and sometime after reading the report, the SCP described will be discovered somewhere. The first SCP described was SCP-002, followed by 003, and so on. It's unclear whether or not the Sheaf of Papers is responsible for creating the SCPs in question, or merely notifying the reader and the discoverer of their existence. Rather than concerning itself with the start of the Foundation, Jorik and Dematic's proposal, 36, more relates to the end of the Foundation. 36 describes 36 individuals of varying ages, genders, and ethnicities.
Xavier got him.
When any anomalous item or phenomena is brought within close proximity of one of these individuals, the anomalous quality is nullified. When multiple members of the 36 are brought together, the range and intensity of this nullifying field is increased. Additionally, when any of the 36 die, multiple anomalous events will occur, along with the sudden appearance of varying dangerous entities. Examples include sudden rainfall containing numerous fatal pathogens, massive walking creatures, and spontaneous ritualistic cannibalism in a widespread area.
Spontaneous cannibalism.
Civilian casualties after each of these events are generally tremendous, reaching into the tens or hundreds of thousands. After the death of one of the 36, they are supposedly reincarnated as newborn babies, although the Foundation has yet to prove this. It's believed that once all 36 individuals are brought together, their nullifying
Some spontaneous
field will
booty
reach across
eating.
the cosmos, removing all anomalous properties from existence.
Would you try
and making
human?
the world young again.
Yeah. Although, there's an episode of It's Always Sunny about this, and they get, like, the taste for human flesh, right? And then they can't go without it. They become, like, obsessed with it. And they're like, I gotta have human meat. And so I would be worried that, like, once I had human meat, I could never go back. In multiple ways. In multiple ways, because number one, maybe it's so good that everything else is just gonna be terrible in comparison, or I'll be corrupted forever. Because I'll be like, I was a cannibal at one point. There's no returning from that. Yeah, it also depends on, like, what human you have. That's true. What type of... Is it going to be, like, fatty? Is it going to be muscly? Overall, it doesn't sound like it's a very good idea. You realize you have no interest in it? If that's the case, then I'm probably going to feel ashamed, and I'm going to think about it for the rest of my life. Be like, yeah, there was that time where I ate a person. Just once. Seems like a society thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I would like it, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of meat in general. Can also give you a debilitating and deadly disease called Kuru or prion disease. Oh. Yikes. Well, that's certainly not worth it. To simultaneously become a lifelong cannibal? Not worth. Mostly from eating the brain. Really? Huh. Don't eat brain? Don't eat the brain. But that's how you get knowledge. That's how you get smarter, I thought. You have to eat a brain. Mad cow disease.
There are, of course, many other proposals for the SCP-001 slot. Dr. Gear's prototype proposal is simply a dangerous, anomalous human.
Looks like a Demogorgon.
And is presented as the very first SCP that the Foundation decided to report on. Kate McTirris's proposal, a record, relates a researcher's discovery that anything written in the SCP-001 slot becomes true, and she apparently uses this ability to become God. The Broken God proposal from Twisted Gears and Cactus goes over an incident in Mexico in 1942, when members of the Church of the Broken God attempted to rebuild their god with a false heart, leading to disastrous results. Bright's Factory proposal is a story of a grim and deeply mysterious factory that continually creates new SCPs for unknown reasons. As mentioned, some of these certainly deal with explaining the origins of the Foundation, or of SCPs in general, and many others are just immensely powerful or notable SCPs. There's no real guidelines for what constitutes a 001 proposal, and sometimes certain SCPs end up as 001 proposals even though the author originally wrote it for some other purpose. The actual first SCP written was 173, posted on the Paranormal board of 4chan, and is currently the highest rated article on the SCP Wiki. The SCP-001
We're almost through
is
with this one.
indicative of the SCP universe as a whole, as so many of them contradict with one another, forcing readers to pick and choose what fits their personal headcanon. I'd encourage you to read a number of them yourself to decide which one suits you, but only the O5 Council know which of them is the truth.
Dun dun dun! Everyone who works any length of time at the Foundation knows the universe we live in is a seriously fucked up place. Those of us who still believe in God tend towards serious ambivalence about his handiwork. We found out that there is a God and it's SCP-001, and it's a bunch of horror writers. Ooh, that's spooky. This is also a popular one. What is this? The Shy Guy.
SCP-096. The Shy Guy. In the SCP universe...
Do the other one first? But isn't that just the thing we just watched?
SCP-173. The Sculpture. Being the first of a kind is rarely synonymous with being the best. The Wright brothers' plane is not generally considered the best plane, and Roundhay garden scene doesn't make many best film lists.
I don't like the way he's looking
But
at
being
me.
the original always deserves some form of recognition. And for the SCP universe, that recognition goes to SCP-173. While it's unlikely a large percentage of SCP fans consider it their favorite, it retains far and away the highest rating of any article on the site, and will likely hold that honor for a long time. 173 is a simple article, and it alone wouldn't warrant much of a summary, but I'll also go into some of the more interesting tales that have sprung up based on the original. In mid-2007, the paranormal board of the 4chan website was filled with various stories and pictures made to creep people out. Many of these followed a classic formula of creepy build-up ending with a jump scare or something similar. The original text of SCP-173 was posted here during this time, along with an image of a sculpture made by artist Izumi Kato. The original post has been lost to time, but it was posted numerous times afterwards, and its popularity began to grow. People were intrigued.
Reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood.
That this strange entity was apparently only one of at least 172 other strange entities contained by some organization. Other SCP posts began popping up, and eventually, the concept was moved off of 4chan. The rest is history. SCP-173 is an anomalous statue constructed from concrete and rebar. With
I thought it was small.
spray paint on its body and face. While not being observed, 173 is extremely hostile and will quickly move to the nearest creature, killing it by strangulation or snapping its neck.
Oof.
When no one is inside its containment chamber, reports of a stone scraping sound are heard, and there is also a continual buildup of feces and blood in the chamber that must be cleaned bi-weekly.
No, sir.
During the cleaning, at least 3 D-Class are sent in, with 2 of them keeping constant watch on 173, alerting one another if they need to blink. So, that's it. That's SCP-173. By today's standards, 173 would likely never make it onto the site, at least not for very long. But in 2007, it was enough to spark interest and create a new universe. The
only moves when no one's
does
looking
work
at
in
it.
its favor, to cause the reader to ask a number of questions. Who made the statue and why? What is the stone scraping sound? Where do the feces and blood come from? And why does the Foundation insist on cleaning it up? To potentially get some answers to these questions, we can look at a few tales that authors have written about 173. None of these are technically canon, so feel free to accept any of them, or none of them, as your own headcanon. The tale Anniversary shows 173's creator, an invisible artist, that easily breaks into 173's containment chamber. This artist created a number of anomalous statues, such as a statue that, when looked upon, can't be looked away from.
Ooh.
This individual considers 173 to be his favorite, however. A perfect piece of art that represents the human condition, endlessly demanding of attention, savagely violent when ignored, producing nothing but waste. They've given 173 the simple instructions of not moving when observed, and killing when not observed, but it was potentially capable of a lot more. While in the chamber, the artist spoke and touched the statue, which displayed traces of sentience, and before leaving, told it that just this one time, when personnel came to clean its chamber, it was allowed to do as it wished, if even one of them looked away. The statue details a number of emails, primarily from a junior researcher newly assigned to SCP-173. The researcher is a little confused about his job of watching a camera feed of 173 when D-Class go in to clean its chamber. He wonders why there aren't automated cleaning systems in place, and why they haven't utilized better means of watching 173, such as an AI. A higher-ranking doctor insists that 173 has been exhaustively tested upon, and there's little else to try at this point. Automated cleaning systems get rapidly blocked with a buildup of feces and blood, almost as if 173 could direct this runoff where it wished, and potentially uses the substance purposefully to draw prey in. The doctor also mentions how this mixture somehow gets into any recorded media of 173, as well as the housing of any artificial intelligence used to watch it. The junior researcher later emails the site director, Jack Bright, asking if he can implement a system of remote-controlled drones with cameras on top that stream footage to containment staff. Bright approves, but tells him not to get overconfident, as they've tried a lot of clever ideas on 173 in the past.
Drones.
Sure enough, the test
They're the
goes
future.
wrong, as the substance causes two of the cameras to lose sight of 173 for a moment, along with the third operator blinking at the same moment, allowing 173 to destroy all three drones. They attempt the test again, but the same thing occurs, along with the lock to the chamber failing, causing the death of a janitor.
No!
Bright tells the researcher not to feel too bad about it, and to keep thinking about another containment procedure. A few years later, he emails Bright again, asking if he can change the chamber to include a series of grates, so that the substance will simply slide through them, requiring no cleaning. Bright once again approves, but they learn that 173 can apparently change the composition of the substance, causing it to melt through the floor, a foot of concrete, and 7 feet of soil before killing 12 people. The researcher asks to be allowed to terminate it, but Bright denies it, saying they clearly still can learn from 173, and he takes the researcher off of the project. Finally, Bright emails one of the O5s, confirming their fears that the only way for safe containment of 173 is to continue sending D-Class in to clean its chamber every week.
They're
Because for
disposable.
whatever reason, 173 demands human attention.
Demands human sacrifice.
Revised entry, the highest rated tale about 173, begins with the same text found in the regular 173 documentation, but then describes an incident when two D-Class who are cleaning 173's chamber seem to be looking at two different
Convicts, they
instances
are
of
disposable.
173. One of them sneezes, and they are both killed.
Sorry. There's a dog I have to let out. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Killed. Somehow, 173 managed to multiply, and so each is given their own.
Ever watch those people
with
with
standard
cameras that explore
protocols put in
abandoned
place
places and
for both.
buildings? Yes,
Sometime
I love
later,
those.
both
Ghost
multiply
Hunters.
again, leaving 4 copies of SCP-173.
That's A S tier
And so its
television.
object class was changed to Keter. Some more time passes, and 173 continues to multiply, now numbering at least 61. Multiple 173 entities work together to break containment, and it's believed that they possess some sort of hive mind, growing more intelligent as their number grows.
At first, it didn't creep me
The
out.
Foundation ships
Now it's
the
starting
173
to.
entities they still have off to the moon, but a number of them escaped and continued to multiply, quickly causing
What?
hundreds of
Those
thousands
containment
of
bridge
deaths
games, SCP
across
containment
North
bridge.
America in the
That's
span
the
of
monster
48 hours.
primarily. I mean, it's a few other
The
ones.
veil
but
of
this is the
secrecy
one
is
that chases,
broken
like, weeping angel.
as the incident becomes international news, and thousands of 173 entities work together to rip open and destroy multiple Foundation facilities. 150 of them join up and rip apart SCP-682.
Aww.
North America becomes completely covered in 173 entities, leaving only estimates of a couple hundred people still living in the country. And so the O5 Council decides to commence a nuclear bombardment of the entire landmass. North and South America are renamed to Containment Zone X1, and all Foundation efforts are redirected to monitoring the oceans to see if any 173 entities attempt to leave the zone. Sometime after, an instance of 173 is sighted in Wales, forcing the Foundation to quickly nuke it, leaving no survivors.
All of Wales is just gone.
SCP-173 is the original. And because of that,
Can't take a
it certainly
chance.
deserves the respect of any SCP fan, but it's also managed to garner quite a bit of popularity outside of that fact, and continues to draw new people into the SCP universe. SCP-173 is the main focus of the Containment Breach video game, which has brought a lot of fans to the community, and new artworks, figurines, and other pieces of fandom are continually created based on 173. While the SCP universe and community have changed quite a bit in the last 11 years, we can always look back to where we started, with the original.
With the OG. Yeah, at first it didn't creep me out. The like little face was like, "Oh my god, is that it? Is that the spooky thing?" But like the more that you look at it, it becomes more creepy. I twist, they die, neck makes sound, not words or scream or gurgle, neck go crunch. Crunch is beautiful sound. I love crunch bars. Crunch means end has come. Crunch means man can torment no more. Crunch means others panic. Others become easy. Crunch begins and crunch ends. I live for crunch. Dude, the crunch bar should use this. I live for crunch. They could use that. That's an easy tagline. I will watch this one. I'll watch this one and then we'll head out for the night. Sound good?
Violent monsters are more or less a dime a dozen. Much of the SCP Foundation's resources are spent containing creatures that would happily murder the global population, given the chance. With this in mind then, what exactly does it take for one of these monsters to stand out from the rest? SCP-096 is an early SCP, and yet it's managed to both stick around in popular discussion and garner one of the highest ratings across the whole site.
Highly rated.
Let's look at what makes this monster unique, and some of the interactions that the Foundation
A fan
has had
favorite.
with it. SCP-096 is a humanoid creature, standing approximately 2.38 meters tall, or close to 8 feet. It is pale, hairless, possesses very little muscle mass, and its arms are extremely out of proportion in length, each being 1.5 meters long. Its eyes are also devoid of pigmentation, possibly suggesting that it is blind, and it is capable of opening its jaw up to 4 times the norm of an average human. Normally, 096 is completely docile, spending its time in its cell pacing across the floor. It shows no signs of possessing any higher brain functions, and the Foundation does not consider it to be sapient. However, when anyone, anywhere, views 096's face, whether directly, through a camera, a recording, or even a photograph, 096 will immediately enter a state of emotional distress. It will begin screaming and crying,
Me too.
covering its face with its hands, lasting for a minute or two.
Feels.
Following
Mood,
this, 096
bestie.
will begin running towards the individual that viewed its face. So far, the SCP Foundation has found no way to physically impede 096, and it's capable of running in excess of 100 kilometers per hour. 096 seems to have innate knowledge of when anyone sees its face, regardless of distance, and knows exactly how to find them.
Oh,
A test was done by sending a D-Class in a deep-sea submersible 10,800 meters down into the Tonga Trench by New Zealand, hundreds of kilometers away from 096's position. The D-Class was instructed to view a photograph that had been taken of 096, at which point 096 quickly broke containment and began running in the direction of the D-Class. The path had been cleared of civilians, and the Foundation tracked 096 by satellite. Meanwhile, the D-Class was instructed to sketch a drawing of the photograph, which is then sent to the surface in a watertight container. Reaching the Tonga Trench, 096 begins diving down, finally reaching the submersible. It tears it open, the D-Class dies,
Wow.
and 096 is recovered. Viewing the sketches of 096 caused no adverse reaction.
Oh, so it's
When
only an actual
096
photo.
inevitably reaches a target that has seen its face, it kills the target and then does something to the body that leaves no trace. It's likely that this is something more horrific than simply consumption. Afterwards, if there is no one else that has
What
seen
does
its
that mean?
face, 096 will return to its docile state and proceed to return to its natural habitat, an expunged location, but likely a mountain range. Retrieval of 096
The nice
is considered
countryside.
the highest priority to the Foundation, due to the risk of a mass chain reaction of people seeing 096. We're then given an interview between a doctor and a former captain of a retrieval team that was sent to initially retrieve 096. The retrieval took place in an extremely cold location, but 096 did not seem bothered by this, simply wandering the area. One of the retrieval squads landed their helicopter and approached the target to apprehend it. While doing so, the captain received a call, causing him to turn away. At the same time, 096 turned around, causing the rest of the squad to see its face.
Oh
The captain says it
no.
began screaming and crying, sounding much more like a human than an animal, and they fired upon it as it tore off the leg of one of the agents.
Nice.
The team utilized heavy weaponry against 096 to no effect, including an anti-tank gun that destroyed half of its torso, and roughly 600 rounds from a 50 caliber Gatling gun.
He's
It
just
seems
built
as
different.
though 096's flesh and organs are vulnerable to conventional weaponry, but its bones were completely unaffected, and it continued to slaughter the squad.
He drank his
The
milk.
second squad arrived and placed a bag over its head, causing it to become docile. Somehow, the captain managed to survive by never actually viewing its face. The interview led to the doctor requesting that 096 be terminated as soon as possible. Terminations are not often attempted at the SCP Foundation, going against their mission statement, and often the Foundation doesn't even possess the means to terminate most SCPs. That's a big part of what makes 096 unique, as we're given a lengthy log of an incident that convinces the O5 Council that 096 should be terminated. This itself is not the termination attempt, which, depending on your canon view, has not actually occurred, but it does add quite a bit to 096's story. The incident begins at 096's containment cell, as a dozen or so researchers are looking at monitors in the adjacent control booth. Suddenly, a wall of the containment cell begins bulging outwards as 096 fights against it.
Bulgy Wolgy?
096 soon breaks the wall, and two security teams enter the room to try and subdue or tranquilize it, to no effect. Most of the security team and the researchers have viewed 096's face at this point, and so the rooms are flooded with a nerve agent. 2 minutes later, 096 escapes from the research site and begins running at high speeds across the surrounding desert.
No. The desert.
A recontainment team proceeds to chase after 096 in a helicopter and attempts to stop it with a modified anti-material rifle. A shot hits 096 in the leg, causing it to stumble for a moment but not slow down. And a shot
Why
to
would
the
he?
head causes it to fall and roll, but quickly gets back to its feet and continues running.
Damn, he's resilient as
The
hell.
Foundation begins trying to figure out where and who the target was that caused the breach, and clears out population centers in 096's path. The process overseen by a Dr. Oleksy. Another researcher working on 096, Dr. Dan, was in a mountain
Dr.
range
Dan.
trying to find out more about 096's origins. Dr. Dan and Dr. Oleksii had designed a new piece of technology to help with containing 096, called Project Scramble. Project Scramble was an eyepiece containing a microprocessor that constantly analyzed its viewing field for the facial features of 096. If detected, it would scramble 096's face into an unrecognizable mess before the light reached the wearer's eye, protecting them from 096's effect.
Huh.
Unfortunately, it didn't work.
Wah.
Mobile Task Force
Aw.
Tau-1 was also sent in to recontain
Don't like that
096, equipped with Project Scramble visors. By this point, 096 is outrunning the helicopters and is tearing up a highway. 096's travel of direction caused it to pass through a few towns, and so the MTF is forced to gather up all of the townspeople and blindfold them, so that they don't see 096's face. The fourth town, however, holds the original target of 096's rage. All of the citizens of the town are gathered in the town square, blindfolded, and are told by the MTF to stay where they are and keep their blindfolds on, otherwise they will be shot. As 096 comes over a hill and lets out a loud shrieking sound, several of the civilians are shot, presumably for removing their blindfolds. 096 barrels into the crowd, throwing people aside and trampling others while it looks for its target, and more shots are heard. Finally, 096 locates its target,
His
a
face.
middle-aged man. The camera feed goes out once it grabs him.
His face. I can't.
We learned from the commander of MTF Tau-1 that the
He's so
target was a
squishy.
mountaineer that took a trip to a mountain range, again likely 096's natural habitat, and took a picture of the landscape. Apparently, this picture contained 4 pixels of 096's face in the background. The commander guesses that at some point after the fact, the target looked at the picture and noticed the 4 pixels, without actually realizing what he was looking at.
Not the 4 pixels.
The team's scramble gear picked up the pixels right away while looking at the photo, but he goes on to say that Scramble was a colossal failure that led to the death of most of his team. He says they could have just put a bag over his head, but instead they had to use the idiotic scramble gear. Dr. Dan explains that Scramble failed because they didn't fully understand how 096 worked. He says that in theory it should have worked, but before the computers could actually scramble the image, a split second of light would hit the eye, activating 096's effect. He says that the mountaineer went on his trip over a decade ago and had the picture hanging in his house the entire time. He wonders how many other ticking time bomb photographs are out there that contain 096's face and are waiting to be noticed. He repeats his request to have 096 terminated. We learn that after killing its original target, along with most of the MTF, 096 went back to the highway to finish off everyone else that had seen its face. It was found sitting on the highway after tearing apart a minivan, and they managed to get a bag over its head. The agent who bagged 096 was later found to have committed suicide, and it's implied that he witnessed 096 doing something horrific to an infant. We're given a short separate log taken from a confiscated tape belonging to CNN. It shows a field reporter discussing a crashed plane with a large hole in the side of it, and only 3 bodies were found inside, compared to the expected 20. Apparently,
Our boy was just a little
096 is capable of
hungry.
reaching targets in the air as
He's a
well
little
as on the
peckish.
ground and underwater, making it even more dangerous. Dr. Oleksii, who earlier in the log said that he was in a break room getting coffee when 096 breached confinement, is caught in his lie, as there is no break room at that site. He proceeds to confess to both his and Dr. Dan's involvement in causing the breach. It seems that they were both convinced of the need to terminate 096, but the O5 Council wasn't going for it, so they wanted to show how dangerous it could be. How exactly they engineered the breach is unknown, but it is likely they made Project Scramble faulty on purpose, or knew it wouldn't work. Their plan ultimately worked, horrific as it was, and the Council decides to approve their request for 096's termination, along with the termination of the 2 doctors. So far,
Fair
there
enough.
hasn't been any document written by the original 096 author going over its termination, or attempted termination. But SCP canon being what it is, you can decide for yourself how you think that played out. SCP-096 is an early SCP, and shows a lot of hallmarks of an early SCP, but it is nonetheless a great way to get into the weird world of SCP. Why does this monster exist? Why does it hate having its face seen? And are there more than one of them in the world?
I mean, that part I can relate
Questions
with.
like these, with no answers, are what
Sir
draw most
Goblin.
people into the mystery
Hi,
of the
welcome
SCP
in.
universe. And even after nearly a
Thank you for the
decade,
follow.
096 is still drawing people in.
Drawing people in with that damn smile. That gorgeous smile. Upon reviewing your testimony and available footage and the confession of the late Dr. Alexei, if it is the unanimous agreement of the O5 that you are to be terminated for your part in the gross breach of SCP-096. And I thought you would know the meaning of for the greater good. Yeah, dude, for real. These are great. Very spooky, too. I like thinking about things like this, about, like, what ifs. Ugh. Very cool. That was actually our last one for the evening, fellas. Thank you all so much for hanging out and watching the stream, for the pumpkin carving and the spooky stories and the cookies and all the fun stuff we've done today. Still busted. Yeah, Nightbot is wacky. I don't know what's his fucking deal today. I don't know who he thinks he is. But I don't appreciate it. Not one bit. Alright, that'll be it for me tonight. I'll be back on Tuesday. We're playing Until Dawn on Tuesday. Big Pog. I'm super excited for that. We're going to be doing a movie marathon tomorrow in the Discord if any of y'all are interested. We're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Exorcist, and Poltergeist. We're watching all those tomorrow starting at around 6 p.m. Pacific time in the Discord. ! Discord in the chat. Well, that won't work. Go down below. There's a Discord link. If you scroll down in my socials, there's a link there. You can click it. Take care of yourselves. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Xavier. There's the link. If you guys want to join the Discord and watch some movies with us tomorrow. Yes, it was so nice to meet you, Sir Goblin. I hope you come back soon. We'll be playing some spooky games next week if that interests you. Yeah, that'll be it for me tonight, guys. I'll see ya either tomorrow or on Tuesday. Have a wonderful night, guys. See you later. Bye.